going? Is it working? I was at a critical point and I could not stop to start a new live stream until just now. So, I hope this is working. I have no idea if it's working. If any of the 3 people in here can give me a thumbs up and let me know, or make a comment, let me know it's working, you can hear me. Anyway. So, having a hard time right now, not feeling a little bit frustrated. It's not your fault, it's my fault. It's just sometimes a thing that happens. Everything that is going wrong is a symptom of me rushing for the filming. So maybe it is kind of your fault. No, I'm just joking. And then just now I was trying to, I was like, okay, I can't get a live stream going right now, but I can record. Fucking classic. This happens all the fucking time when I try to record myself, which is why I almost never put together any kind of like meaningful content around processes. Is I pulled up the camera, but I was in such a rush that it was on photo mode. I can't take a video in photo mode. Or at least that's not how I'm trying to take it. So then I swiped it over to video mode. I didn't push the fucking record button. So, and the billet feels really sketchy right now. I feel like potentially, even though it's moving, it seems like it's staying together. At the same time, I do feel a little bit worried that shit is gonna go sideways and it's gonna fall apart. I keep working it down height-wise to, I think, 4 inches by 1 1/4. 3.5 by 1 1/4. Let's see. So 3.5 inches tall. I don't think I have a stop block for that height, but I can. I'll have to measure it out. But the steel's getting hot. But what's happening is the billet is kind of like squishing in all kinds of weird directions. Part of that's because of the press, part of that's because of the material, part of that's just fucking sometimes how it goes. So, I'm gonna check the Patreon real quick to see if this is even going. Because if it's not, I need to figure out something else, right? Does look like it's going. Whoever's hanging, okay, Rich, thank you, sir. Whoever's hanging, struggling, Rich, thank you. Fucking struggling right now. I appreciate you, sir. Let's see if I can pull this up. I'm gonna pull this up right here. So that's there. It's a while. Oh, and my phone charger stopped working for the other phone. For the auxiliary. So that's frustrating. I'm gonna give this steel a quick spin. So, it's frustrating because in my mind I'm like, all of this should just go perfectly smoothly. Especially when you're trying to teach people stuff or demonstrate stuff or film stuff. That's when things seem to go bad. So I'm gonna get this off the temp. I'm gonna put it back in the press. I don't think it's really slightly askew, like the top is sliding out from the bottom. I don't know. I might be able to do some weird forging to kind of try to correct that, but it feels really sketchy to try to do something like that. But I don't know. So you guys will see. So I'll pull the steel out. I'll set the camera up again so it's shooting straight at the dies. I say again like you saw that before. You didn't. But anyways, I'm going to set it up so you're facing the dies so you can see how it's kind of wonky, and then I'll adjust it, and then I'm going to do some sketchy squishing. Sketchy squishing. That should be my new Instagram. Alright. Actually, I'm going to put you guys at 45 so you can get both angles. Kind of funky, the shape, right? I'm gonna try. Better. It is kind of kinking again. I don't want it to get too crazy with that. I'm going to turn this. I just realized. Oh! Hot again, and then I'm going to do that same process. I'm going to squeeze it from this base. Not to be super frustrated right now. Things just aren't going super smooth. And my fucking glove tore in a weird way when I was trying to put it back on. I like gloves, especially when I'm forging Damascus, but I hate these Harbor Freight ones. They're so shit. I have to tear the edges of them to fit my hands in them. But then, when I go to put them on, the fucking thing fucking tears off. So annoying. That's garbage. Thankfully, I got a backup. But to be able to put my damn hand in it, I gotta tear it again. So hopefully that stays together for now. Okay, so getting it back up the temp. Tempted because the ends, because I've been forging kind of gently on it, the ends are kind of, it's creating kind of like this hourglass shape. So it's in the middle, it's narrow, and at the top and the bottom, it's wide. So I'm tempted, almost tempted to forge those in because that's a ton of material actually. If I trim that down to the narrowest part, that's like probably at least always going to be material loss on the end, but reducing it as much as possible is good. Is a good thing. Just realized I need to do some water drinking. Out of square. Out of square. Doesn't need to be a time, but it needs to be some. Another round of that to get it to forge it out of square from the other end. I turned the whole billet around and so which is a good note. If you can possibly manage it, especially if you're working a billet of steel without a handle, or a billet of steel that has handles on either end, to be able to turn it around from end to end, not just flip it. You always want to flip it, work it evenly from top to bottom, or bottom to top. But if you can flip it from end to end, that slight parallelogramming that happens, because what's happening is the die, there's just movement, a little bit of movement in the dies, but every time it squishes down, it scoots over, and it squishes down, it scoots over, it squishes down, it scoots over. And it causes things to kind of create this parallelogram effect. I'm using that parallelogram effect to my advantage, intentionally. One, because it was something I was tired of fighting, but two, I think it's a cool effect that can be surprisingly useful. Okay, so the steel is quite thick. It's probably at least 1 3/4, if not almost, from that 1.5 inches that we started at. So I'm going to start after I get it, and it's good that it's thick like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I'm going to hit it on the out of square again, And then I'm going to forge against those flat surfaces, the wide surfaces, to lock in that angular activity like I was talking about. And then I'm going to forge the ends in, like I was saying before. That should be cool. Check on this stream. Looks like it's still going. That's positive. Anyways, what's everybody else working on and potentially completely messing up? Huh? Anything good? Anything good? Hand sanding. It's a good time to be watching live streams. I'm trying to think what stuff. So I'll sometimes jump in and watch people's live streams, mostly on Instagram, but sometimes on YouTube. I'll watch movies or shows on while live stream or while hand sanding. Oh, gosh, I'll rewatch movies that I've seen a bunch of times so that I'm not too worried about seeing every single thing. And I can focus maybe a little bit more on the hand sanding. I listen to a lot of audiobooks or podcasts while hand sanding. Ripping hot in there, but the steel's not getting super hot. Which tells me that maybe the opening is a little too open. Now in this pattern, you do want to, so the S is curving, right, in a particular angle. So when you forge the stack off out of square, you want to make sure that you're encouraging the angle, that angularity. If you go the other way, it messes it up. Doesn't look right. Done it. It sucks. Just gotta suck it up and deal with it. Excuse me. Yeah, so the drawing. So where we're at right now. Sorry. Who likes looking at my shoulder? Just loving it. Okay. Consolidating to make sure it wasn't all messed up, forging it out a square, and then the next step is to lay it down onto the flat. Like I said, it's probably like 2.5, or sorry, almost 2 inches, so it's probably more like 1 3/4 or so, 1 5/8, but it's pretty thick right now. So I'm gonna forge it out a square from the other direction real quick, and then I'm gonna lay it down and forge it on the flats to start drawing it out lengthwise, and narrowing that material up. Okay. Guess what? The steel's getting hot. Who would have known? Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? All right. Out a square, and then drawing it out. Okay. I think that actually went all right. Yeah. So, fingers crossed. It stays going all right. Man, I'm just so confused. Fucking earpiece. I have the wrong size earbud, like the earpiece on. They come with a multitude of different sizes, and it keeps slipping out. It's driving me nuts. I think it's going all right. Forging on the flats, what that's going to do is not the reason it's kind of locking that shape in is it's actually helping to exaggerate that curved or that kind of angular activity in that steel, and we want that. So I'm gonna keep doing it. Part of me is actually kind of tempted to do. Actually, never mind. There's a couple different ways that you can go about welding up this billet. There's probably at least right now, there's like, I think 3 or 4 knives worth of material in this stuff. And I'm thinking, if I'm probably after this stage, yeah, I'm definitely gonna cut the ends off. And I've actually been cutting the ends off. Last round and this round, I'm gonna save those, and those are gonna be a little curiosity pack for as a drawing for this month for making this pattern. So, and then that will make. So I'm gonna cut the book, match it to itself, weld it, and then I'll cut off the end of that as well. That will also be part of the end cut. So the drawing this month the people will be getting a little bit of each stage. The goal for me always is to try to make my patterns in as few forge welds as possible, because every time you weld material back together, you're losing material. So I'm always trying to reduce that material loss as much as possible. I like the way the temp's looking. I think I'm about ready to pull this beast back out. So one thing I like to do sometimes, so not only do I like to flip the steel while it's in the forge, but especially if there isn't a handle, I'll actually also spin it in the forge end to end. So not only am I forging it or changing the orientation of forging it, changing the direction of forging, which end is facing me when I'm forging it out. When I'm heating it up, because I find that the side nearest the door is definitely the colder end, and so it also helps to flip the billet around if it's possible. This is not the best door in the world. I would like a different door for the future, but right now this is what I got. But I think I'm gonna flip this to lot of heat coming off that. When you open that door like that. It's probably running at least 2,200 degrees. It's dang hot. Thankfully I have, so the forge is coming at me from this way. But thankfully, I got a fan coming at me from that way. It's like little commands on this live stream platform. I just don't know. I just don't know. Something I was thinking about earlier, but I think I forgot to mention. We were talking about the off-gassing of the carbon, right? If you ever use flux and you see that the flux is bubbling, that is that carbon off-gassing through the material. It's coming out of the material. That's what it looks like. Especially when it's passing through a layer of liquid flux, it's going to make bubbles. If you use flux on any other material that doesn't have carbon in it, you don't see that bubbling. It's not, the flux isn't boiling. On other materials, when it gets hot, it just melts into a puddle. That's it. It doesn't start to bubble. But on steel, it does start to bubble. And again, it's not because it's boiling, it is because the steel, the carbon in the steel is off-gassing. That is visible evidence of that off-gassing effect, in effect. Okay. I'll pull this steel out. We're gonna get some squishing. steel out, and I noticed, and I don't know if you can see it, but there are some spots up in this corner, this lower corner. Let's see. Easier. Like this. Where the steel is not holding together well. Now, that might be something that when I go to weld the material or forge it back to a regular rectangle, that helps to try to like kind of fix. But I forgot that I was gonna start welding the corners of billets like this, because if material doesn't stick together in those corners, and for whatever reason, those are a pretty serious commonplace for cracks in your material, where your material is starting to come apart, to propagate from, to start. So by putting beads in those corners, beads of weld, you're helping to hold those corners together much more securely, so that they are less likely to come apart on you. And again, that was something I forgot that I was wanting to start doing, and now it's gonna potentially ruin this whole billet. There hopefully will be enough material for one blade, because now because of the propagation, I don't know how deep that is and how fixable that is. So we'll see. I'm having a hard time not being really frustrated. One, because I'm fucking hot. Two, because I'm recording all this and sharing it with everybody. It feels like I'm looking like a goddamn fool. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I haven't had shit like this happen in a long time, and I don't know if like the anxiety and stress of a bunch of, well, you know, potentially a bunch of people seeing this, or anybody watching, well, I think maybe, I don't know what the problem is, but it's frustrating. I don't like that this is happening, because I don't want it to. Who does? So, but at this point, this is when a handle would be great. Because now at this point, and again, I can almost guarantee if I started with a shorter stack, I would have a lot less of this fuckery. But I was in a rush, I was being lazy, I was tired, I had to go. I should have thought about the fact that 8 pieces that are 3/4 of an inch thick is going to end up being 6 inches tall. I didn't think about that, and now it's frustrating because I keep rushing this shit this whole time. Yesterday, today, I keep rushing this billet. A lot of shit's going sideways. It's taking way fucking longer than I thought it was. I thought I'd be done an hour ago. In fact, part of me wants to, instead of doing any more forging on this billet today, being patient, and doing a little bit of hand forge work to try to close up these gaps and stuff, and then put the billet in the forge to let it cool down slowly, age those welds, and then start out tomorrow or later today. I have stuff I gotta do this afternoon, so I gotta leave. I gotta be somewhere too. So, but rather than trying to continue to force it and possibly cause this build to come apart even worse. I'm going to try to do a little bit of reparative work and then call it good for today. So what I'm actually going to do, let's see. Rich, what are you saying? I've noticed the corner is pulling apart like that more often when I get that hourglass shape. Yeah, it's frustrating. Weld those corners up. I forgot. Don't be like me. Be better than me. You can do it. Alright, I'm gonna pull that piece of steel out. think we're about to call this good for the day. Oh, this fucking camera stand. I wish I could figure this shit out. It's driving me nuts. Can't even get it out of the fucking stand. Ugh, I'm having a hard time not getting super frustrated right now. Let's go watch Mareko have a mental breakdown because he can't get steel to stick together. Okay. I'm gonna let this do his thing in the forge. Down where we at 110. All right, I'm gonna let it age in there for a bit. We're gonna talk about what the hell is fucking going on, why everything seems to be going sideways. Okay. The goal is to learn from your mistakes. Otherwise, you're very likely to make them again in the future. That doesn't feel good. So, what? Fucking shop. What happened? Okay, so the biggest thing I think that happened, or has been happening over the last couple days, is that I am rushing myself. And because I'm rushing myself, I'm not really thinking things through, I'm not preparing things properly. So, that bar that I had yesterday, I forged it out to 1.5 by 3/4. What I should have done was thought about the maximum height. Take these fucking things out of here, drive me crazy. The maximum height that I'm working with in my forge, or that I'm trying to work with. And that isn't necessarily even based off the forge. It should actually be based off the width of the material, my whatever width I want. So my little calculator, if I know my material is 1.5 inches wide, if I multiply that by 3 to get a 3-to-1 ratio, the maximum height should be 4.5 inches, right? I was at 6 inches. I was well outside. 6 inches divided by 1.5, that is full on 4-to-1 ratio, right? And with that height, especially at the volume it was, and there are also short pieces, I was pushing my luck. And if I had started with a shorter stack that was at 4.5 or 4 inches tall, let's say we went with the maximum of 4.5. That divided by 8 pieces, I would have had to forge the material down to 5/8 of an inch. That would have allowed me, and especially if I forged it right to 5/8, after cleaning, that billet would have for sure been inside of that 3-to-1 ratio. But because I wasn't really thinking about that, or that I was rushing it, and I didn't take that into consideration, it ended up way outside of it in a 4-to-1 ratio. I have successfully gotten stacks to weld in a 4-to-1 ratio, but it is tricky. And things have to be a lot more precise, and this stack was not very precise. Some of the pieces were a little bit longer or shorter than the others. The width wasn't all consistent. If you can get everything dialed in all dimensions, and you have a 4-to-1 ratio, then ideally you have a press or hammer that you can forge on and compress quite evenly from top to bottom. But if the die faces are slightly out of skew, even by like a 32nd of an inch, and whether it's a press or a hammer, that will influence the material and its ability to compress directly down. So because my stuff usually isn't perfectly dialed in, because that takes a lot more time to get things perfectly dialed in, I work in more of a 3-to-1 ratio. And so, yeah, if I had forged it down, even just another 1/8 of an inch, that would have made a huge, and now that's actually kind of frustrating, because it was at 3/4, and to get it down to an 1/8 of an inch, it would have taken a couple more heats, but not that long. And again, I wasn't being patient. So, patience. Plan things out. Take your time. If you feel like you're feeling rushed, that means you need to slow down even more. Or if you feel like you're rushing, you really need to slow down, because by rushing in some way to save yourself, even if it's 20 minutes. I worked on that steel for 4 hours yesterday. And if I had taken another half an hour to forge out, or even if it took another hour to draw out that material, ideally it would take another hour, but even if it took another hour, that would have saved me. Like if all of this steel goes to shit, then I've wasted all of that time to save myself 1 hour. That's not worth it. If you can't be patient doing this job, this isn't the job for you, because that's when mistakes are made, at least for me. What's going on here? It's all fucking out of whack, crazy. Anyways, yeah, so rushing. So I should have forced it down to 5/8, if not half an inch. Half an inch definitely would have taken another hour. But I think 5/8 honestly would have gone pretty quickly, especially if I ramped up the temp in the forge. I was just being impatient, and I needed to get, because of all the other mistakes or things that were going sideways earlier, forging yesterday took way longer, at least 2 hours longer than I thought it was going to take. I thought yesterday was going to be super simple, because all I had to do was reduce the stack, well, at least, whatever. I had all kinds of plans. Shit went sideways because, again, I was rushing. The lesson here is not to rush, as best as you can. Because also, like, that's when not only does material get messed up or ruined, it's also when people get hurt. They're not paying attention, they're rushing, their head's somewhere else while they're doing another thing over here. It's not a win for everyone. It's not a win for anybody. So, God, I'm trying hard not to be super frustrated at myself. I just try to re-solidify that lesson in my mind that I need to slow down, especially when it comes to my pattern stuff. So, okay, so steel's in there, steel's up the temp with the forge. I'm gonna let it soak for maybe another, let's go to an hour. So we'll cut it off at an hour. That's when I'll turn this off, or turn this off, turn that off, be done. I'm trying to think what else. But yeah, if I had taken the time to get the material down to that 3-to-1 ratio, one, the relationship of the height to the base would have been a lot more stable, and I wouldn't be getting all this wibbly wonky kind of stuff. Part of the problem with having a tall stack is that you do kind of have to forge a little gentler, and that's when you start to get that material spreading around at the top and the bottom a lot faster than it is through the middle. It's because you have to be a little bit gentler. So that force, while it is going all the way through the stack, the majority of it is at the top and at the bottom. And So that's going to cause the material at the top and the bottom to spread the quickest. But if you're staying within that ratio of 3 to 1, your material should be very stable, and you should very confidently be able to just jam down on your material if you want to. So by taking that small extra step of thinking about the height to width ratio, I would have, now if it was 2 inches wide material, which I don't think I was going to be able to get, but if it was 2 inch wide material, then I would have had that 3 to 1 ratio, right? 2 inches wide at the base, 6 inches tall. But I also don't think it would have been 6 inches tall. To get that width, I would have had to lose some of the height. So anyways, but I can keep my 1.5 inch width, take it down to 5/8 of an inch, stay within that 3 to 1 ratio, very comfortably, and then a lot more confidently have been able to clean up the material, or not clean up, but forge the material without any concern of it kind of getting out of whack, getting twisted out of shape and stuff like that. And yeah, it would have been good. So, lessons for the future. And yeah, and by taking it shorter, each of the 8 segments would have been probably another half inch to an inch longer, which would have also given the billet more stability lengthwise, so that when you're drawing it out, it's not doing any weird wonky stuff. Like, you can forge kind of aggressively. I always start very gently, but then finish forging, especially after like the 3rd, but especially on the 4th round of forging. That's when I get a lot more aggressive with the steel. So it might start out with the top and the bottom kind of moving a little bit faster than the middle and getting kind of like that hourglassy shape. But then in the 3rd and 4th round, especially if I'm just jamming it straight down like I'm trying to do here. But if I'm, like, say I'm building up layers for random pattern, if I'm trying to get to multiple layers and I'm just jamming it straight down, if I'm within that 3 to 1 ratio and I have some length, I start very gently, enough all the way through the height of the stack, but not forging too aggressively too early, because I don't want to cause anything weird to happen. At the 3rd round or 4th round, even though it's starting to do that kind of hourglassing shape, or that kind of fish lipping in a way, then because you can forge a lot more aggressively, that causes the material to now start to squeeze out the end through the middle where it's moving the fastest. So, but yeah, another crucial takeaway I think right now is not doing the single weld through the middle, doing welds on the corners. And I think, now that I think about it, I think I'm gonna start doing that on all restacks. Actually, shit. I mean, a normal stack ends up looking like this once it's welded. Like, it's not too bad. It doesn't get too crazy out of shape, right? But restacks can start to get wonky on me, like this one did. And so, part of me wonders if I only do it on the restacks, or because I have had, especially if I'm forging on the bias, to either make C's or to make S bars. In fact, I think I have. Oh, here we go, right here. In the first round of welding, look how this is just a single weld down the middle, but the corners are like back here. But if I had welded this material at the corners, yeah, you can see where the edge of that bar was right there. That would have helped to hold things together a lot better. Now, thankfully, nothing got too crazy and wild out, but potential was there. I think going forward, I need to start welding in the corners. I'm not, because the benefits, I think, outweigh, the pros outweigh the cons. Con, it takes more time, it takes more welding material, whatever. The pros, it's gonna help hold the billet together a lot better, I think. And it's a thing that people do. I just have never burdened myself with it or bothered myself with it, but I think it makes sense for me to do that now. It's funny, I just realized, I'm like, all the thinking I would be doing in my head, I'm like doing out loud. Like I'm talking to somebody, and I'm talking to, there's 5 people in here right now. Rich has been chatting a little bit with me, but there's a lot of internal dialogue. But normally, if I just kept it in my head, I'd also be saying, you fucking idiot, you messed up that material, it's gonna be super fucked, nothing's gonna go right, everything's going wrong, you're not a good person, blah, blah, blah. A lot of negative self-talk. Anyways, I'm gonna turn this forge off, and then I will sign off, you guys. Okay. Close this up. And essentially let that steel go through and anneal. And actually what I'm thinking I might do tomorrow out of there, I should be able to cut and clean up, cut off those ends, and run weld those corners like I'm talking about how I should be. Weld those corners to help keep shit together, and then get it back in the forge. Hopefully nothing's too fucked. What's up, 73 Forge? Michael Powell's back in here today. He says, I typically MIG weld my first stack and TIG weld all seams on my restacks. Yeah, I usually don't TIG weld. It's usually not a problem. And especially if it's not my last. It depends on where I'm at and what the material looks like. But on the last weld especially, I make sure it's clean it up to a high level, grit, as well as TIG all the seams. Sometimes I'll actually do that as well on the weld before, but it depends pattern to pattern on what's going on. No failure, so just fusing. Yeah, no, it's not a bad move. Unfortunately, well, and I have some limitations. Like I just have this little lunchbox welder. It does not have a water cooling system in there. It gets fucking hot. So welding that thing up and wrapping all the seams takes a minute and a lot of power and well, I'm not too worried about the power. I don't want to ruin my welder, and so I found that if I just do the TIG fuse on the last weld, that's plenty. But yeah, I definitely think I'm gonna start doing corners more. I'm gonna cut off some of this excess shit tomorrow and weld those corners. Hopefully that helps with stuff. Get that material set aside. I need to work a little bit smarter. But after this, it should be. I keep saying it should be. It should be fine. It should be straightforward. Watch me go and fuck something else up. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. We're gonna call it good. Thank you all for being in here. It's been a difficult day for me, frustrating day, but hopefully there are some takeaways. There again, like, even though I want everything to go perfectly smoothly, I know from my own experience as a student working with somebody else or watching other people's demonstrations, I get more out of things not going well than I do from watching them go well. Because often, very likely, things are not going to go well. Statistically speaking, things are not always going to go perfectly smooth. So, figuring out small ways to fix problems along the way is a huge help. So, I actually would rather, while I love seeing people demo and things go super smooth, I don't want things to go wrong, but I'm a very visual learner, and I benefit most from things not going smoothly and learning how to fix things rather than crossing my fingers and hoping everything goes perfectly smoothly every time. Because if you think about it, we develop procedures based on either past mistakes or past poor planning, which I guess is also, you can chalk to mistakes. So there's a reason that you go through particular steps. Rather than just knowing the recipe, I'm also curious as to the why you go through these particular steps. Because if you skip a step or you don't do this step, what does that affect? And how does that mess things up? How does that make things more difficult for you in the future versus doing it earlier or something like that? There's usually a reason why, especially when other people are teaching you their processes. So that's really my goal with all this, is to teach you guys my process, and hopefully you get some value out of it. And I appreciate you. If you're not part of the Patreon already, I would love your support over in my Patreon. If you go to patreon.com, look me up, Mount Mossy Fire Arts. Sign up, join the community there. Got a great group of people. And I think we're going to be doing some really fun stuff. Even though I'm struggling right now with these live streams, with the camera, with the forging, I think this is just all part of the journey, right? Things are going to be kind of tough at the start, but they smooth out, they get better, they go easier along the way. So that's it. I think I'm going to call it a day. I got to get moving. I hope everybody has a safe day out there. Stay sharp, stay safe, and stay cool. It's very warm right now. So otherwise, I will see you later. Goodbye.